Thank you.
Opposition spokesperson.
Thank you, Ms Butler, for chairing the debate this afternoon, and to Ms McVeigh before you. And of course, it's been a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship this afternoon. And may I also thank the Honourable Member for North Ayrshire and Arran for bringing this debate to the floor of the House on behalf of the 198,966 people who signed the petition 700682. Vast numbers of people, Madam Chairman. And I've listened to this debate very carefully this afternoon, and I have to say I've been moved to hear the passion and the concern, the deeply held, sincere concern from members on all sides of the House this afternoon. Ms Butler, no human being should endure and be subject to the kind of inhumane treatment that we have all seen in Gaza in recent times. And I hope and believe that all of us in this chamber, whether we completely agree or not, we all want the same outcome. We want peace and stability returned, and particularly women and children that have suffered and others to live in peace, to return to normal life. And we all want to see that, whatever our opinions are. And I'd like to thank all honourable and right honourable members that have spoken this afternoon. Of course, I'm always moved by the honourable member for Islington North, who I avidly listen to whenever he speaks. We don't agree on much, but we do agree on some things. And particularly like to thank my neighbour, member for Ilford North, who spoke earlier. We share the same part of Essex, East London, and we have constituents who have similar views on many issues. So I'd like to thank everybody. I'm not going to refer to everyone this afternoon, but I would like to speak on behalf of His Majesty's opposition. And so, Ms Butler, let me firmly put on record my support and the support of His Majesty's most loyal opposition for President Trump's peace plan for Gaza. As I said during the Foreign Secretary's statement last week, the adoption of the UN Security Council Resolution 2803 represents a major step towards restoring order, security and, I believe, a pathway to peace. And I sincerely hope that prosperity will be returned and peace for all the people of Gaza as a result of this. The United States has brought leadership, and the United Kingdom must stand shoulder to shoulder with our closest allies, especially the United States and Israel. If we are to have any hope of ending this conflict and building something better. So since becoming Shadow Minister for Foreign Affairs, I have not yet had the opportunity to speak on this subject. It's always been other Shadow Ministers that have spoken instead of me. So I'd like to put on record that I've always believed that Hamas, which is an Iranian satellite and a terrorist organisation responsible for atrocity upon atrocity, which culminated in October the 7th, can play no part whatsoever in the future governance of Gaza, let alone a part in civilised global politics. I'm glad that many members this afternoon said things along those lines. Their contempt for human life and human dignity is matched only by what it appears to be their absolute hatred of Israel and the Jewish people. And indeed, from what I can see, the wider free world. We have nothing in common with Hamas. Their repeated rejection of peace proposals, their game playing over the release of deceased hostages, and their brutal campaign and summary executions against Palestinian civilians tell us everything we need to know. Of course.
Thank my honourable friend for giving way. Would he agree with me that we can, in this place, and we should, condemn all acts of horror, terrorism and injustice anywhere and everywhere, whether it's Hamas perpetrating it or Israel?
I hate what I've seen on our television screens over the last over 2 years, and I condemn all unwarranted acts of violence. Self-defence, we understand, and we're deeply sad to see what is happening. We all want to see an end to this, and I absolutely respect the honourable gentleman's position on this and agree with him. But Hamas seeks only chaos. They are completely uninterested, from what I can see, in coexistence with Israel. And so, Ms Butler, I understand the strength of feeling expressed by the petitioners and by many honourable members in the chamber this afternoon. No one can fail to be moved by the scale of suffering endured by innocent Palestinians. However, any approach that sidelines Israel will do nothing to get aid over the borders. All crossings, with the exception of Rafah, border Israel. So there has to be cooperation with Israel to get aid into Palestine. And the UK, I believe, must work with Israel to ensure that aid is flowing through the crossings effectively, safely and securely. Last week, the Foreign Secretary mentioned that she is working with her Israeli counterparts on the reopening of certain crossings into Gaza. And so what is the government proposing specifically for each of the individual crossing points? I'm sure the Minister will answer that question later on. And my right honourable friend, the Shadow Foreign Secretary, is currently visiting Israel at the moment, where she is seeing for herself the humanitarian aid operation at the Karem Shalom crossing, where trucks have been crossing through into Gaza. Aid supplies coming from Israel, the World Food Programme and partners in the region, like the UAE, are all taking part. So some aid, maybe not all of it, but a lot of aid is getting through. She has also met with COGAT, and I believe she is the first British parliamentarian to visit the CMCC, where she met with General Frank, who is heading up the operations to implement the 20-point plan. Such is the importance that this side of the House places on the ceasefire, ensuring humanitarian aid gets into Gaza and that Hamas is eliminated so the region can have the promise of a more peaceful and secure future. The CMCC and COGAT are focused on getting 4,200 aid trucks into Gaza each week. So, can the Minister confirm that this level of humanitarian assistance is getting through? Does he recognise the aid supply from figures from COGAT? Does he agree with those figures? We often hear ministers quote the UN figures, but will the Minister tell us whether he accepts that COGAT efforts are bringing in thousands of trucks of aid a week of humanitarian supplies in using vital winterisation supplies? And so also, can the Minister tell the House whether he or the Foreign Secretary have any plans to follow in the footsteps of the Shadow Foreign Secretary and visit CMCC and meet with COGAT? If they have not done so already, it is vital they do so, and that they visit soon, given we are in the plans going forward. Now, the previous government did everything in its power to increase humanitarian access. Working with allies, they did secure commitments from the government of Israel to open Ezra Crossing and the port of Ashdod to get aid into Gaza. Israel also agreed to extend the opening hours of the Karem Shalom crossing point, and they were able to achieve commitments to increase the number of trucks entering Gaza. And for a period, we saw an increase in the quantity of aid delivered. The United Kingdom supplied vital food and medical aid for innocent Palestinians. And with the help of the UN and Cyprus, we managed to secure infrastructure, including the floating pier off the coast, to help get aid into the territory. I respect that this is an immensely complicated and tragic situation, but the government needs to be focused on practical and even novel solutions for getting round the bottlenecks. Regarding UNRWA, we must not forget that it had to fire 9 staff after investigations into their involvement in the appalling attack on Israel on the 7th of October. The testimony of Emily Damari about the location of her captivity is incredibly serious. All links to the Hamas terrorist group must, I believe, be severed by UNRWA. It is critical that the UN bodies ensure adequate vetting of personnel and activities, and that Catherine Colonna's reforms must be fully implemented as soon as possible. And I hope the Minister would accept that Hamas have been using aid as a weapon, stealing and hoarding it, preventing Gazans from receiving aid, and then profiteering from its sale. That is wholly unacceptable. And so what constructive steps is the government taking with international partners to address aid diversion? At the heart of President Trump's peace plan is the establishment of an international stabilisation force. And the United Kingdom has world-class peacekeeping, policing and stabilisation expertise. And so will the Minister confirm that British expertise will not be wasted and that we have a plan to support the creation of this force alongside our allies? And does the Minister have a view on what the ISF operating parameters should be? And also, does he think that they should move into the red zone? And on the rebuilding of Gaza, what actions are the UK taking to support the establishment of alternative safe communities? It is widely acknowledged that if the current ceasefire is to turn into a sustainable end to conflict, Hamas must be removed from power and its terrorist infrastructure must be dismantled. What we need to hear today is how the government intends to work with regional partners, Israel, Egypt, the UAE and the emerging Palestinian security structures to achieve that essential objective, and Britain to play its part in creating security, peace and stability, and to give the people of Palestine and Israel and the whole of that region hope for the future.